Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Solomon Cooper with EasyPower. Hope everybody's doing all right today. So this webinar is going to be covering the tips mostly for using the new EasyPower Arc Flash label editor. It's a new release in version 9.5. Mostly what we're going to be doing is providing some label examples here. More or less the reasons why we go through and perform analysis as engineers in the industry is to provide a safer workplace for everybody out there just doing their daily jobs. So these two examples both have arc flash and shock hazard examples. Those are available in the software here, but more or less the analysis that we're doing is based off of requirements for the arc flash. The easy label requirements that are necessary, first off, you're going to need the software, EasyPower, EasySolve, or Safety Tracker. All of these are offered through our company, and they're available resources so that a large variety of people can use the software. The second thing you're going to need is a developed one line. This really includes all of the components, devices, and machinery. It's anywhere from actually knowing what the device is to the details of the transient response in the system on, say, a given generator or motor. Because pretty much anything that is moving in the system is going to be providing some sort of arc flash contribution. The second thing that we'd want in that develop one line is to make sure that we have multiple scenarios, and anytime we have a complex system, it's really important to analyze and monitor every scenario that we could possibly present to make sure that, or at least the worst case scenarios that could be presented in which we're going to get different arc flash results. Satisfactory protection schemes are also included. As one of my professors put it, the 5 S's are always included. And that's speed, security, selectivity, simplicity, and of course money. We know we're all limited to that at times. So the arc flash spreadsheet is also a requirement. You have to have that enabled in the software. I'll show you how to get that going in a second. And then of course labeling standards and knowledge are always helpful. NFPA 70, 70E, CSA Z462, ANSI Z535, and OSHA. So when we get into the EasyPower software and to the short circuit analysis, we want to enter the short circuit options. And in the short circuit options, what we can do is just go down to that arc flash hazard tab. And we're going to want to make sure that under the reports that are created, we want to make sure that that arc flash spreadsheet has a check mark in the box. Make sure that it's enabled. And then to enter your label editor, you want to access that arc flash spreadsheet. So what you can do is run your fault analysis and make sure that you're in arc flash mode. And then you can press F8 and that spreadsheet's going to pop up. So once that spreadsheet's popped up, you select the spreadsheet and you're going to get this ribbon here. So this ribbon, you're going to see the actions that you can perform in the arc flash spreadsheet, and we want to click on that drop-down list under label and select design labels. So I'm going to get into that here and show you exactly what I'm talking about in EasyPower. So this is just a simple one line. It's protection 1. It comes with all of the software packages, and you can access it just through selecting the file folder up here. And the default menu is under the sample files. So when we get into this one line, we can go over here to short circuit analysis, we'd like to make sure that the arc flash option is enabled, and then we're going to fault these buses. Now that we've faulted these buses, we want to pull up that arc flash spreadsheet as I was just talking about. Now there's another way besides the F8 key, and that would be opening up this Windows drop-down list and selecting the arc flash hazard report. We can also hit F8 as I previously discussed. So once we've selected this arc flash spreadsheet report, we want to go up here and select the drop-down list to design labels. So what we see here is a template that I've enabled specifically. I'll go through it a little bit later, but I designed it such that it takes into account as many variables as possible. And you really get into a situation which you're looking at a lot of formally defined logical components. And in that instance, you can enable a lot of the variables, and I'll show you how to do that here in a second. But if we wanted to go through, say, any of these templates that pre-exist in the software, we can go in and label each of these specific, or select any of these specifically and find one that we would like to analyze. So, excuse me, not analyze, but improve or create our own template off of. This is generally the easiest way to go about it from my experience. Is just pick one that looks like something that we'd like to do or something that we'd like to have out in the field and do our best to improve it. So once we've found the label that we would like to improve, we can go up here to the editor, and that's going to bring us into the arc flash label editor here. So the old HTML that existed on the prior templates is still shown. So if you had pre-existing templates, what happened was that it was a XML format, and you had to go in and you had to create your own code, and it was pretty time consuming, and if you didn't know XML or HTML, it made it a little bit worse. So what the developers here, Alan Ricker is the main developer on this project, he had come in and he'd created this interface for us. It's a really good interface in that you can see what's going on. If you select an item, you see exactly the line of code that's defining this item, and you can go in and you can adjust it to whatever settings you would like to have. So here it's the arc flash and shock hazard with the appropriate PPE required. If we would like to change that, we can go up here and select the text box, and we could just delete it, and that you'll see that change happen here on the label. So that's really the easy part about it, is that you can select the item, as you see here, and you can go in and you can edit it. Excuse me. So the other items that exist in the one line are these templates, or excuse me, the variables, and each of these variables can be defined explicitly as well. So as you're seeing over here, they're defined in a green text, but these variables can be redefined in the one line or in the template properties here, and it's going to be relative to any item in your one line. So here we've got the arc flash boundary. We can define this as automatic, so it's going to access your global variables, or you can define it in any of the other options that are here. So we see centimeters, feet, inches, meters, millimeters if you really want to get into detail, and then of course decimal places. We have an automatic here, but I like to see in terms of feet, maybe a couple decimal places, at least one. Automatically, you're going to have global precision, the global precision variable, and that's going to define it for you. So instead of 2 feet 3 inches, we might see some 2 feet instead, and that might not be as clear as we would like when we're out in the field. So we can obviously redefine those. Another thing about each of these items is that we can go through the text positioning and readjust these so that we can define everything at the points that we really want to have them in the image when we end up printing them out. So if we want all of this text to say 1/2 inch in, we would create that at 1/2 inch by typing in 0.5. Now, these variables, when you look at them, you're going to see a lot of different variables in here. These are defined in the help menu, and they define explicitly what each item is going to provide. There was some confusion recently that I've heard about. I'm trying to get it here, but it was really in terms of, say, the incident energy, the PPE, actually, excuse me. So we have a PPE class, and a PPE level. So all of these are actually defined in the library. But what everybody would rather like to see is understand what each of these is about, and I really tried to provide what is in the library or our help menu so that everybody can really access the explicit definition of what each of these defines. So they are basically providing the same information, but there are some differences in between them. So I'll go down here to the PPE level that's defined already and show you. But if we go into class, what happens is we only get a 1 instead of the number 1. And so that's actually defined in our options. And the PPE level is going to provide a number 1 as well. There's a PPE description, I think, somewhere as well. And that's just going to provide the description of what you've defined or what we have defined by default in the library. So some of the tools up here that we can get into, we can throw in, say, a rectangle. Up here at the top of the one line, and then we would want to insert some text possibly, and this would just be to create something similar to some of the other existing items, but say it's a different format than we wanted to define previously. So we can just say, call this warning again, and increase this point size to 32, let's say. And we could probably make it a little bit bigger, depending on the output that we're going to end up having on the label itself. As it's really relative, you can play around with it a little bit to get the correct size that you'd like to see. Yeah, it's really, you know, we provided this tool mostly because everybody's a little bit different. Everybody wants to see a little bit something different out there. You can even insert images on your labels so that if anybody has any question, they can always give you a call back. It's free advertising. If you're going out there, you can put your name on items, and then maybe down the road somebody's going to give you a call back because they've seen it, seen your work, and they appreciate what you've done. So that's really pretty much done by going up here. You click on this insert image. It's going to ask you what image you're wanting to define over here in this file. So we do have these defaults And so you can choose any of these, the yellow danger, yellow blast warning. You can also input files. So say if you were looking to define your company name, or if you were you had a logo that you wanted to include, you can select that from the file options there. We also have this item of QR codes. And now if you have a smartphone, I'm sure you're familiar with the QR codes. Well, I would really like to see, I haven't done this yet, but you could set up a little website if you have some server of some sort, and you could keep all of your customer files on here. So if there's explicit information off of the server that you have, you could define that here. It'd probably end up being in a secure site of sorts, and then you could define what you want to pop up on that smartphone when somebody's checking out your QR code. But otherwise, you can type in something else in here. Say, you know, if you've selected this, or if you're reading this, then you're too close. And you can always really just play around with it, put some stuff in there, or put any pertinent information that you would like to add that isn't maybe necessarily included in the label or required in the label. It's really up to you. But that was pretty neat, I thought, and I would really like to see basically this information also provided on a server of some sort. But like I said, that's up to you. Now we can see in here all of these items are changing, and that is based off of those variables that are defined. So we go back in here, we get this kV, kilovolts, and that's going to be changing wherever we are in the system. So that's pretty much the basics of the label editor. We do have these conditional statements, and you can make them as complicated as you want, really. You can end up defining a couple text boxes here. We'll have one warning, and we can have this one as danger. And so in the templates that I've created, I ended up having to use two text boxes, and then you can conditionally turn each of these off at different situations. So I think that I based the danger principle off of the shock hazard requirements, as well as the incident energy exposure. So anytime you're over 40 calories, I think it's you're basically limited from entering that area. So it's important to make sure that everything is defined explicitly. And I do have that label, and I'll show you it in a second here. But it really, you know, that's what I was talking about. I took a formal logic class, and it's definitely not, it wasn't for me. Yeah, I found out after taking it, but it's you know, basically trying to create a mathematical formula or create logical statements or in English, and it was, you know, math and English never really resonated as a single entity for me, and so my exposure in that class was interesting, but it definitely was something that I could improve on. And so when I developed these formal logic statements, it ended up taking me a little bit of time to do, but I could have probably just made one for warning and turn it off if it's not within a certain limit, one for danger, turn it off when it's not within the shock hazard or over the incident energy limits, and go from there. But I guess I thought it'd be fun to try to figure out the logical statement behind it. So sorry about the tangent, but more or less once you've finished a template and you want to save it, you just go in here, select Save Edits As, and you would define it here. So I've already got an edit 1, but I'll just name this edit 2, and you click save, and it'll save in your file locations wherever you keep your sample files. Now, see, these are the items that I went through and I created the formal logical statements, and I'll show you a little bit of basically the items that exist in here. So when we go through each of these buses, it's going to change depending on the available fault current, the PPE levels, and of course the shock hazard based off of the potential at the bus or the node that's being analyzed. So in each of these, you're going to see I've defined these conditional statements. Now, if you want to make it unconditional, you just click this button. And for this warning variable, it's for the voltage level whenever it's greater than or equal to 750 volts. What I ended up having to do as well is for that formal logical statement is to make it unconditional, or make it conditional based on the incident energy. So this is only going to show when it's less than 40 calories as well. So the box is pretty much defined the same. This orange box. You can change the colors here. I think that was also defined in these rectangles. I didn't go into that a second ago, but really it's you know, it's a new toy really to play with and get familiar with. And when you get it down, I don't think you'll have any trouble with it, but you just have to get your hands dirty sometimes and figure out what it is exactly that you're trying to show. Yeah, so this one's really nice just in the sense that, you know, obviously there's no, this is PSE is the main incoming bus, and I don't have any protection defined for it, so I'm not going to get any limits. So you might end up seeing that, and that's these stars in place of the variables, and that's just because there is no value. So in the Flash spreadsheet, what you would see is that there's no protective device upstream, and this is the result in the label. You can obviously go back through and redefine that if you wanted to by providing explicit values instead of the variable. You could delete it, or you could create a separate template specifically for your incoming or your PCC. So here we see the PSE here. No valid upstream trip device. Now, once we've figured out what template we want to use, and we've edited that template to the point that we feel would be sufficient for placing out in the field, we're going to end up printing these. So we're going to want to go in here and print labels for all devices or the selected devices that you want to print out. And what you can do, we've got our page settings here. We've got a label template. So we would go in here, we would define what label we wanted to use. Edit to is what we were just looking at, right? So that's what we see here. And everything's defined as we've defined it in the template. Not a really pretty label, but what can you expect on the fly? The page layout, now we can go in here, we can select the printer type paper that we wanted to use, anywhere from the 4x6 to these 2x2s. You're going to see based on the paper requirements, we've got two labels wide by 2 labels high, and then these Avery, the Avery type paper is always good as well. Yeah, so these are all defined. We've got 3 rows, 2 columns. We have the page size, 8.5 by 11, and the label size, 3.75 by 3 inches. And then the page margins, we can redefine those here as well, just as we would in any other document. Label margins, that would be the outside edge of the label. So you can see this here. This is the label margin, or the label outline. And so when we change that label margin, that's going to adjust so that we have enough space on the label, and we're not going to misprint or anything of that nature. Now the scale to fit is going to adjust the specific template that we have. That's going to adjust the specific template that we have for any individual print style or page layout that we would like to use, and it's going to shrink it down or increase the size depending on what the size of that label actually is. We can also center the label on the template itself or on the paper itself by selecting this button. And having a little bit of trouble here on the 720p because of space requirements, but you can also define the label rotation down here, 90% clock or 90 degrees clockwise, 90 degrees counterclockwise, or no rotation, and that's more or less dependent on your style, the size of the paper that you're using in the labels. Now let's see here. So the other items that we can get into are these true size and fit to view. So they're just basically going to show you what it is we're looking at on that full page layout if we hit fit to view versus the true size. This is going to optimize it so that this is pretty much the size that you're going to be looking at when you place it out in the field. So you can stand 20 feet away and see if any of it's legible, warning versus danger, or the specific items that you're looking at. And we can always get back into the label designer through this button here, or jump around to any of our other labels, say, or any of our other windows, say the protection scheme, DEZ file, or any of those. Now the selected device button, you can define what items you actually want to print here in the print interface. And so we could deselect all of these, and then say we just want to, or select all of these and not print that main, and then it'll show all of the items that we're actually going to be printing out by clicking through here. We can also click this button if we're on a 90-degree angle. I believe it really will bring it back to the rotate page. So you're looking at, again, if we go to fit to view, it's rotated the label and it's rotated the page so that we can actually look at it in a convenient way without having to turn our heads 90 degrees too. And the zoom button. Let's see. Is there anything? I guess that's really it. If you have any questions, I did see I don't have a specific 120 volt label. I haven't been asked that question previously. I haven't supplied any labels for 120 volt systems. We do talk about it every once in a while, and I think generally based on our Flash, what we do is we can calculate it for 250 volts and below. The application is a little bit different, and I believe the guidelines are changing too. From what I've heard, the IEEE 1584 is going to be requiring analysis on systems below 250 volts. But yeah, I could provide the template to anybody that wanted it, that main template that I had for shock hazard and arc flash. It looked like that might be something anybody would want, I could send that out, and you guys can play around with it however you'd like. Yeah, I don't know what else I could show you. Was there anything that anybody had difficulty with in terms of using the editor and they'd like that addressed specifically? I can see a couple of the questions coming in here. So anything else? You can always send me questions or difficulty that you might have. That actually, now that I mention it, that does bring up a fact. There were some of the older HTML or XML edited templates that folks have been having difficulty with, and we really do apologize that that there is any difficulty with that. There's a lot of, unfortunately, in that XML, HTML template editor, we ended up having a situation in which there were variables that were defined that weren't taken into consideration, and this was more or less because they were added. These hashtags that exist in HTML, those, or the tags that exist, they were added specifically for customers in the development of EasyPower, from my understanding. And at that time, it was really, it didn't seem like that would carry over in the long run. But when those templates are carried over into 9.5, that label editor, what we can see here, I'll show you one that came in. So we get these red results, and it says the selected template fails to load. So in this situation, the most difficult thing is that I would say is trying to go through that HTML or XML and correct the syntax. You know, you can get into the label designer, you can create an item that is going to be just as good or better within 15 minutes or an hour. It's really, you know, you get your hands dirty once, and you're going to understand how to do it. I can't express that enough. And I mean, for me, that's the way it's always been. But when we get these and we try to go through, I mean, it gives you an error line, and you can go through this, you can try to troubleshoot it, and you could spend days trying to troubleshoot it, when it'd be so much easier to just jump into the label editor and spend a few minutes familiarizing yourself with the interface, and just get something that works for you. And I hear it a lot, but that's really the best method that I found, rather than trying to troubleshoot it. Looks like there's a couple more questions coming in. A choice for the Brady Global Mark or other brand printers that use continuous feed arc flash labels. That I'm not sure of. We do offer some information on our website, easypower.com. There's some specific printers that we've worked with, or printer manufacturers that we've worked with, or resellers that we've worked with, to make sure that we do have items that are, or a printer that works, and that the paper and everything is up to code, and it's nothing that we can explicitly define for you, because we're not the ones going out in the field and defining what is right or what is wrong. And that's why I mentioned, though, that we had those standards out there. They are really important to pay attention to when we are going out in the field and supplying these warnings, especially when OSHA is concerned. So another question, entering the text on an arc flash label. Yeah. So these unique label numbers that we're talking about here. So one of the items that was introduced into EasyPower 9.5 is if we go into this database edit, we can get in here and we can enter a device code. So if it's a bus, depending on the scheme that we want to provide for a facility, we can enter all sorts of items in here. But if it's specific to a certain type of device, we can define that here. So this is just the main. So if you want to enter numeric or alphanumeric code, we could do XYZ-321 and go through it that way. Basically, when we go back into the ArcFlash editor, we can define that device code in the label. So we would default the buses again, pull up that spreadsheet, and let's print a label for the selected device and go back into design labels. If I'm moving too fast, please let me know. Right-clicking on the spreadsheet allows you to pop up that print menu, and then I selected the design label off of that ribbon from the print menu. So any of these will do. Let's just look at edit to where we were just at, and we're going to start to edit this one again and insert a text. So if we want to say place that text down here, we're going to redefine this as a variable. So we can add this variable, and we would look for device codes. Also, every device has a comment section. You can add anything you'd like to there as well. You can go in and you can create the conditional statements that we talked about. But in terms of the device code, we only define that for the main switchgear. So what we see is that XYZ321 code there, and that's really all it takes in terms of explicitly defining an alphanumeric code per item. If anybody's interested in specific items for 120 volt labels, I'm not quite sure on what the answer would be for that, but we could look into it and get back to you. If you'd like to send an email, send it to support@easypower.com. You can always call us also. It's 503-655-5059, and I've got that here in my PowerPoint. But unless there's other questions, I think that's really all I have to show. You know, like I said previously, the best thing that I could offer in terms of advice for making sure that you're familiarized with that user interface is just go through and just start using it. And if there's anything that you're having difficulty with, any questions that you'd like answered, always give us a call. That's what we're here for, you know. So we do appreciate your time, and I do hope that this was beneficial for you to sit down and see what is available in the label editor. And of course, questions, give us a call back, and we'll be here. All right. Appreciate your time, guys. Thank you.